for Monday.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. I wanted to welcome everyone who has come in as a participant to this evening's presentation on preparing yourself for a rainy day. This is another of Family Promise of the Verdugo's ongoing Zoom series workshop on money matters. This is our second year now going into this of doing online sessions. This first came about as in-person personal finance workshops to make smart money decisions, and COVID obviously changed that up on us over the last year. And so we're entering into our second year of topics. And what we're going to be talking about this evening in terms of developing a rainy day fund really does sort of come out of the experience that I know a lot of us have had because of COVID. It's really sort of opened our eyes to our personal budgeting, our personal financial situation, and sort of maybe how we were sort of floating along through life, trying to make things work between job, between family, trying to juggle our bills and our expenses. And while we were doing that, when COVID hit last March, just right about this time in a week or so before lockdown and quarantine, we really didn't understand the impact of such a situation and what that would have on our work, our jobs, the way we manage our finances, our bank accounts. And so a lot of what we've been talking about this year so far, setting financial resolutions, making sure that we're prepping for our taxes and doing our tax returns, and now setting up a rainy day fund is really sort of coming out of this last year of being in this almost, if I probably want to just call it a financial laboratory where we're having to experiment again and go back to figuring out what are going to be the best ways to protect ourselves and our families financially as this pandemic continues, to move forward and continues to drag on. So with that being said, I want to talk tonight about something we all know we should be doing. And if COVID didn't teach us anything, it should at least be this, that we definitely need a rainy day fund, right? So I want to cover tonight, and then we'll get to some questions as to maybe how you can implement this in your own life, in your own financial situation, in your own household, is why do we even need a rainy day fund? Well, number one, we know that life is unpredictable. Some days just aren't perfect, right? You have those days where your car breaks down or there's a repair that needs to happen. Maybe it's in your apartment, in your home, and maybe it's a situation where somebody's not going to just come and fix it for free. And you weren't expecting this repair, you weren't expecting this bill. It was one of those life's, what I call what ifs. What if something were to go wrong? What if a situation were to occur? You weren't planning to have that toothache, and now there you are at the dentist's office and you need a new crown or you need a root canal. I mean, that was not in your budget. And so the rainy day fund helps us not plan for the what ifs, but be prepared for the what ifs. And I know that that would give us all a little less stress and a little bit more peace of mind, knowing that we've stashed away a little bit of cash for the just in case, right? When that financial storm sort of comes in, rolls in out of nowhere, something that's outside of our normal living expenses, we have enough cash on hand to take care of it. So that, one, we don't have to put it on a credit card. Or two, we don't have to go get that dreaded personal loan, right? Where maybe we're having to ask family for money. or we're having to go into payday loan advance or something that has double-digit interest, right? And the good thing that comes out of this is it keeps us accountable to making saving a habit. And that's what's super important about developing this rainy day fund is it keeps us in check, right? And we've learned from COVID that, gosh, we would have just been so much better off had we had that rainy day fund, or maybe had we put a little bit more into it, right? It would have just been a nice cushion that we needed when something so big like this has hit. One stat I wanted to share with you before we move to the next slide is that back in 2018, the Federal Reserve, our banking system, did a survey and they found that 1 out of 5 adults incurred a major unexpected medical expense. So 1 in 5 of us are going to encounter at some point within this year an unexpected medical expense. You just can't plan for that. And 24% of adults went without medical care. That's what's crazy. And I know that I would probably be a part of that percentage, because when it comes down to it, if I don't have the money, I would probably be willing to bear the pain. If I have that toothache, if I have that cracked tooth, no, I can, chew on the other side of my mouth. Like I can keep going if I don't have the expense, if I don't have the funds to cover that expense. 24% of adults went without medical care because they couldn't cover the costs. I just don't want that to be us. And so the rainy day fund helps us even in a situation like that. So what is a rainy day fund? Why do we keep calling it the rainy day fund and not like an emergency fund, or maybe sometimes in personal financial advice online, you'll see it called a cash reserve. Why is this something different? Well, an emergency fund or a cash reserve is really meant to cover longer term extended situations. For example, loss of a job, right? Where you may have to go a month, 2 months, even potentially 3 months while you're looking for your next job, while you're looking for employment, sending out resumes, going on interviews, trying to find that next job. The emergency fund or the cash reserve is meant to cover that, right? And that's meant to cover anywhere from 3 to 6 months of living expenses, right? And we've talked about this time and again over the last year, this sort of financial rule of thumb, right? That experts say you should have 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up. And we look at that and we go, oh my gosh, 6 months of my income saved up? That's like impossible, right? So again, remember, the rule of thumb is only meant to be a general rule. For you, if you can do what you can in an emergency fund to save up maybe even a month of income to cover yourself, to give yourself time to find another job if you needed to, even that would be fantastic. So a rainy day fund is meant for sort of shorter term, one-off expenses where, like I was saying before, we have something that's unexpected, an automobile repair. Our car needs, 2 new tires because it got a bunch of nails in them and we keep having to fill it up with air, and we're tired of doing that because of the roads here in LA, right? The rainy day fund covers something immediate, something short term that was unexpected. So again, the rule of thumb on the rainy day fund is try to save up $1,000. Now, again, that's just a general rule of thumb. For you, maybe you can't save up $1,000, right? So ask yourself, how much should I have in my rainy day fund that would be able to pay for an unexpected bill? So for example, Let's say you do have healthcare coverage and your deductible, what you have to pay out of pocket is, I don't know, $750, right? So if you had to go in to urgent care and you had an injury and insurance was going to cover everything but your deductible, that $750, at least try to make a goal of saving $750 in your rainy day fund. So at least you know you have the deductible covered if something should happen. Or you could base your goal off of what's an average car repair that I have to make. The last time I went to the mechanic, I had to have brakes done, and that was, I don't know, $450. Then make $450 your rainy day fund savings goal, right? That way, if something happens to your car, all right, you've got $450 stashed away, right? And what we want to do is we want to keep this somewhere that is liquid, meaning it's not tied up, it's not locked up in a money market fund, a CD fund, where maybe if we take money out to use it for the emergency, we won't be penalized, right? But I always recommend to people that they should at least have it at arm's length, right? So have it in cash. But what I mean by arm's length is don't have it in your dresser drawer where you could just walk over into your room right now and maybe you're in a situation where, gosh, people are asking you to go out to eat or whatever, and you take from your rainy day fund because it's right there in your dresser drawer. No, have it at arm's length, meaning maybe what you do is at your bank, you set up a separate savings account as your rainy day fund, right? It's still liquid, it's still in cash, it's not earning anything, but it takes a little bit of effort to get to the money, right? And so it keeps you from imploding your rainy day fund by constantly taking out from it, right? Maybe it means setting up an online bank account, right? There's a lot of online bank accounts that are available that don't require an actual physical bank to have to go walk into, right? You can set up an online account, so that sort of keeps it at arm's length or keeps it away from you, so that if you do have to take funds out, you have to go through that process of transferring it or requesting it or withdrawing it, right? So it's not as easy access for you to ruin what you've saved up. So what can we do to actually build on top of a rainy day fund that we have, or start one from scratch? Okay, let's make it a goal to try to develop a rainy day fund in the next 3 months or less, right? So let's say we've got a separate account, or let's say we make an online account, we've got that. First thing we have to do is we have to go into our budget, right? We have to look and see, where's this money going to come from? Where am I going to save this rainy day fund income from? Brian, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I'm using every single dollar. Every dollar has a job. It's paying a bunch of bills. I don't have any money left over at the end of the month to put into a rainy day fund. This is where your budget, if it's up to date and it's accurate, can help you find some additional monies, right? So if we go back into our spending plan, into our budget, a couple of things to look for, right? If you look at the graphic here, where am I eating out, dining out versus eating at home? We just don't realize how quickly this adds up. And hopefully over the last year, you've done less dining out because you've been forced to not dine out. We just haven't been able to physically do that with COVID, right? So maybe you are making more meals at home. But I would even go back into your budget and even see, or let's say you don't have a budget. Brian, I'm not that disciplined. Log into your bank account, look at your bank statement, and go line item by line item and see Where are you spending your money? Gosh, you know, I don't dine out, but I had a bunch of Uber Eats, or had a bunch of to-goes and I went and picked up stuff. Maybe there's room for savings there, right? Again, take a look at some of your monthly fixed expenses, right? Maybe you cut cable to save money, but then you picked up a bunch of streaming services instead. So you're between all these streaming services, between Hulu and Netflix and Disney Plus and every other streaming service, you're right back to where you were in terms of costs with having cable. Maybe you don't use all those. Maybe you don't need all of them, right? Maybe you have people in your family that have the service and are able to add on several people to the account as part of the service. You could piggyback on them, right? Why pay for it again? So maybe you can save some money there. You know, something that gets me every time, cut out alcohol and drink more water. Alcohol is expensive, and especially if you're ordering it at restaurants, right? You're paying anywhere from 12 to 15 bucks for a margarita. I mean, hey, there's a place to save money. But I won't say any more about that. Of course, you have to enjoy life, and you know, you need to have some simple pleasures too. Take a look at your meal planning and your shopping lists, right? We talked about this a couple of sessions ago where, gosh, where we overbuy and things just go bad and we end up throwing out a bunch of mixed salads and vegetables that have gone bad from Trader Joe's because they sat at the bottom of our refrigerator, and we just end up buying it, and we just end up 2 weeks later, once it's gone bad, throwing it out. And we go through that cycle over and over and over. Maybe we do a little bit more to pre-plan our meals, prep those meals, actually make those meals and use what we're buying instead of overbuying, right? And then saving that difference, right? So all these sort of ideas that I'm bringing up here are meant for you to sort of go back in and look at where you're spending. And again, ask yourself, do I really need that latte every single day? Do I need all this extra that I'm buying and then goes to waste and we end up throwing it out? Do I need that, you know, margarita this week, or can I just save it and feel better about having saved it, right? So again, come back to that budget. Then from there, figure out, where is this savings going to come from? That $25, that 50 bucks a month, like, where is it going to come from? And then you got to physically transfer that money, right? Don't just say, okay, I'm cutting these expenses, and then you spend it somewhere else. You have to actually transfer that money into that rainy day fund account. You have to transfer that money over into that online bank account that you start, right? Otherwise, yeah, you're freeing up money, but it's not actually building your rainy day fund. Another place that I should mention that you could sort of pay yourself first and make it an expense to save is to, as part of your direct deposit a portion of funds or transfer a portion of funds directly over into that separate account, right? Just make it a habit, make it a disciplined, systematic thing that you do, right? So I don't know, maybe you get paid on the first of the month, your direct deposit comes in, and one of the very first things that you do before you begin paying your bills is you budgeted, I'm going to save $50, and you transfer that $50 over to your savings account. This is not, well, when I get to it. This is not, well, maybe by the end of the month, let me see if I have anything left, and then I'll try to transfer. No. Immediately when you have those funds, that's an expense, you're going to save. You're going to pay yourself first. I don't care, even if it has to be a jar. Think about all the loose change. Use the quarters for laundry, but save the nickels and the dimes, and that will add up. if it has to be even something as old school as, saving in that physical penny bank, that piggy bank, or saving it into a jar, do that. And then put that into your rainy day fund. I think what I'm trying to get at is make it as practical for you as possible. Now, again, coming back to Brian, I use every single dollar every month. Okay, well, maybe it's time that you go sort of beyond just looking at your budget and your spending, and then say, okay, now is the time for me to implement some side hustle ideas that I've had. Everybody keeps telling me that I should crochet these, knit baby caps, for newborns. Do it. Put them on Etsy. Talk to your friends. See how you can get them out. You make 50 bucks, $100, put it in the rainy day fund. Now's the time to where maybe that side hustle is not going to take over for full-time income, but maybe it's going to build your rainy day fund. And maybe that rainy day fund spills over into your emergency fund and is covering longer term expenses. Or maybe that rainy day fund begins spilling over into your vacation fund, right? So take those ideas that you've had in the past, and COVID is now giving us the opportunity to execute on it. So whatever that is, whether you're crafty, whether you have a business idea, whatever it is, generate a little bit of income. Even if it's $25 here, $50 there, save it, save it, save it. Any questions at this point? Maybe there's somebody that has suggestions about what they're doing, and they want to share it with the group. I'd appreciate that as well.
Brian, Lisa here. I just wanted to say that I actually am trying to get into that habit of, separating money every paycheck and just putting it aside for a savings account.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an awesome way to start, building up the
Yeah.
savings or a rainy day fund.
Yeah. And I'm sorry I don't have a visual for this at the moment. But I know that Vivian, who is also participating right now, has heard me talk about this before. And in previous workshops, we've talked about setting up a cash management or cash flow system, right? And the typical way that most people direct deposit their paycheck, Lisa, as you're talking about when you get paid, how do I separate out some funds to pay myself first, to save? What's difficult about it for most of us is we have one checking and we have one savings. And so when we get a direct deposit from our job, or we deposit our paycheck, we put it directly in, all of it, into that one checking account, right? So it sort of all gets mixed in there together into this one account. And from that one account, we pay our rent. From that one account, we pay for our groceries. From that one account, we pay our internet bill, our utilities bill, all the bills that we have, our car payment, whatever, on a monthly basis. It all comes from that one bucket. And this is why savings is so difficult, is because after all that money that goes out for all those bills, we go back to the bucket and we say, what is left? What can I now save? And typically there's nothing left, right? There's no more discretionary income. So after we've swiped our debit card a bazillion times during the month, after we've paid our bills and so on, now you're like, okay, great, I'm going to save now. And there's literally nothing left. So in this cash flow system, and maybe we'll bring this up the next time that we talk, just so that I have a visual ready for everybody, is what if instead of one checking account, you had two checking accounts? So basically two buckets, where at the top of the month, when your direct deposit comes in, You can set it up through your bank where a portion of your direct deposit will go into your first account, your checking account, where all of your bills are paid from. So if you have bill pay, if you have online scheduled payments, your rent, everything comes out of that bucket. So then we know, okay, good. All of my bills are going to be paid because I know that there's a certain amount that's going to go into that bucket, and I'm not going to do any other spending on that. It goes to pay my bills. That's it. So we get into trouble in our one bucket system because as money is going out to pay bills, we're also swiping our debit card, right? We're swiping our debit card for that fast food. We're swiping our debit card for the gas. We're swiping our debit card for the Starbucks. And it's taking away monies from the bucket that we're paying our bills from. In this system, that first bucket only pays your bills. There's no debit card on it, right? So you can't mess up paying your bills. In the second bucket, that is the one, right, that we have a debit card attached to. That's the one where we can do our casual, informal spending. When the money runs out in there, we've got no more to spend on. That's that. No more Taco Bell, no more Starbucks, no more whatever, right? But in that first bucket, as one of our expenses, we are going to pay ourselves, right? It's an expense. We're going to pay ourselves $50, $25, whatever amount you can do. That's how we can force ourselves in our system to pay ourselves first and not just wait and see if we have any money left, right? You're paying everybody else for stuff. I mean, you earned the money, you worked hard for it, pay yourself first. It will make more sense. I know my description does not do it justice. So next time, before we talk about Social Security, I'll show you guys a visual of what I'm talking about so that you could see this sort of two bucket system where paying ourselves and saving becomes one of our expenses, and we know we're going to have money to cover it. And that way, I would much rather take several less trips to Starbucks and fast food because I paid myself first and now it's gone into savings. I know that was a really long explanation of something I don't have a visual for, and I apologize, but again, I'll review it the next time that we meet on the 18th, and I think it will make sense. And we'll not only look at it as sort of like a cash flow management system, but as a great way to help save, you know, at the top of every month, regardless of the amount, So our next workshop is in 2 weeks on the 18th, 6 p.m. We are, for the first time, actually, we didn't do it last year, but for the first time, we're going to talk about Social Security benefits. So how Social Security works, how payments are calculated, what are the ages at which you can start taking Social Security? How long can you delay it? What are sort of the ins and outs of how Social Security works? When to start collecting? How's it going to be taxed? What affects my Social Security benefits? What if I have dependents? What if I have a spouse? How does that all work? How do I claim it? I'm going to try to walk through all the ins and outs of Social Security for you guys. So whether you're in your 20s or whether you're 2 years away from retirement, I think it's all going to be very, very helpful information. And I'll add on top of that the 2-bucket cash flow system as well. So that's in 2 weeks at 6 p.m. Social Security benefits. And I know, Lisa, you wanted to mention what's coming up next week on the 11th.
Yes, correct. So next week we're going to have a self-care workshop. It's going to be Shannon Jackson who's going to be the speaker. We're also going to be donating 3 wellness baskets to the first people who RSVP. first 3
Oh,
people.
that's awesome.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, if you have questions about next week's workshop, you want to make sure that you RSVP, make sure that you reach out to Lisa with Family Promises of Verdugos. She's the one that emailed you the link to this session. If you have questions about what we covered tonight, creating a rainy day fund, you can email Lisa and she'll get those questions to me and I can get you answers. If you want to talk with me specifically, because you have a specific scenario that you want to work through and figure out, Brian, here's my situation. How can I create an emergency fund, a cash reserve? How can I make a rainy day fund based on what I'm currently going through? What would you suggest? What would you recommend? Do you have any other ideas? I'd be more than happy to meet with you one-on-one. We would have a Zoom meeting just like this, and we could talk about it sort of virtually face-to-face. So that's available too. Just reach out to Lisa and she'd be more than happy to connect you to me and sort of facilitate that as well. So we really appreciate you being here on a Thursday evening after a long day. And we'll definitely see you in 2 weeks, if not next week, for that special session.
Yeah. Brian, I have a quick question.
Sure, Vivian.
I happened got the flyer that reminded us about your sessions, and it was under Christina's name. And so I sent the email to Christina to register, but then I had to call her because I didn't get anything back. And then she told me about the newcomer.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so they did let you know. Okay, so maybe, yeah, maybe Vivian, thanks for that. Maybe Lisa can explain sort of her new role and position, and then that will make sense to everybody.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's just that we got this flyer on our door because we get it every month, and
Yeah.
it just happened to do a reminder and had Christina's name, email
Yeah,
on it right then. So
yeah,
I
it's
didn't
because
get a chance to register until tonight.
sure. No, it's a recent change, so Lisa will update you.
Okay.
Hi, Vivian. So I'm the new case manager for the LPU with Family Promise, and I'm taking over Christina's previous position.
That's amazing.
You'll
Congratulations.
get an official update from BHC in the upcoming week or so, I'm assuming. So it's
Yeah.
just kind of all new for all of us.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, because like I said, I sent my registration straight to your email, Christina. So I just want to make sure Lisa got it, because we weren't spending anything outside like we used to. So I was
Yeah.
able to pay off a debt. I actually got a tax refund,
Great.
which went directly to my back taxes, but at least I got the state refund, which they didn't take. So I was able to enjoy a nice little cushion.
Yeah, well, that's great. And that's a great reminder too for everybody else. If you are expecting a tax refund, do not mentally spend it right now. Wait for that to come in, and then maybe that is the jump start on your rainy day fund. So that's another great way to save as well.
Yeah. And I also like to encourage people, if they haven't done their taxes yet, to apply for direct deposit, because it's so much faster.
Yep,
Because
absolutely.
by dumb luck, I don't know, dumb luck is the right word to say, but I guess the state, because I guess I didn't register for direct deposit with the state. I got the check because I already got my taxes done. I said, oh, just go ahead and take care of it. I thought I was going to have it. And I knew my back taxes, I knew the refund was going to go apply to the back taxes, which is fine because I finally made friggin' debt on it.
Mhm.
So actually the refund from the federal actually did a dent with one of my old back taxes. So then I would have less than 6 months to pay it off, which I'm so grateful for.
Yeah,
And
fantastic.
yeah, but then I got my state by check, which, thanks to mobile deposit, I already deposited.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. You're getting up with the technology, Vivian. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, well, I can't go near my credit union anyway, so it's like, okay, I guess I guess I have no choice, and it does work. It's just that I know it's a very scary thing to do mobile deposit, but as long as you follow what they're saying for you to do and just hang on to the check to say it's been deposited, then you're fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
So anyway,
thank you, Vivian, for sharing. I appreciate that, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
All.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good evening, everyone.